A long time after the first crude stone blades, a different kind of human stepped into a world that was still merciless, but now demanded something greater than fear and speed, because survival was becoming a test of intelligence that only a few could pass. Homo erectus moved across the open lands, with longer legs and steadier posture, scanning the horizon like travelers rather than wanderers. And even though they were still fragile compared to the beasts around them, their minds were beginning to plan further ahead than the next meal. The dry season had turned the savanna brittle and loud, where every footstep cracked grass like thin bones, and the smell of heat hung in the air, so thick it felt like breathing through dust. Hunger pushed the group toward a river that had shrunk into a muddy ribbon, and they followed it in silence, careful not to draw attention, because predators did not need to be fast when they could simply wait. Near the edge of the water, they found tracks that made their stomachs tighten, heavy prints pressed into wet soil, and claw marks beside them, as if something large had already claimed this place before they arrived. They drank quickly and moved on, but the sky began to darken with strange speed, and distant thunder rolled like a warning that did not belong to any animal. When the storm finally broke, it did not fall gently. It attacked, whipping the land with rain and wind until trees bent, and the world became a blur of movement and noise, and the group ran toward rocks for shelter, while lightning stitched bright scars across the clouds. One strike hit the dry edge of the grasslands, and for a moment the entire horizon glowed. Then flames rose like a living creature, crawling forward with a hunger that looked almost intelligent. The group froze, watching from their shelter as fire devoured bushes and sent animals fleeing in blind panic, and for the first time they saw nature wield a weapon so powerful that even the great predators had to retreat. When the storm weakened, the flames did not vanish. They lingered, crackling and breathing, leaving behind warmth, smoke, and a field of blackened ground where insects and small animals lay exposed. Most creatures feared that glow, but Homo erectus did something rare in the history of life on Earth. They stepped closer, not because they were fearless, but because their minds whispered that this danger could become an advantage. An older member approached, with a long branch hesitating as the heat pushed back against his face, and when the end of the stick caught fire, his eyes widened with a mixture of terror and awe, as if he had stolen something from the gods. He carried the burning branch away from the main flames, walking slowly, controlling his breath, while the group made space around him like followers around a sacred thing they did not yet understand. That night, for the first time, darkness did not fully belong to the predators, because the group kept the fire alive with dry sticks and patience, feeding it carefully the way you would feed a living animal, watching the sparks rise into the sky like tiny stars escaping into the night. Hyena calls echoed in the distance, closer than they wanted, but the sound of fire answered with its own voice, and the shadows beyond the light refused to cross the invisible line. The group sat near the warmth, their faces painted orange and gold, and they ate in slow silence, not rushing, not panicking, because fire gave them time, and time was a new kind of power. In the morning, they discovered something even more important than warmth, because the burnt land revealed food that was usually hidden. Small roasted animals cracked seeds and easier paths through thick grass, as if fire had cleared the world for them. They began to understand that this was not only a weapon against cold and predators, but a tool that could reshape their environment. And that idea was bigger than any spear, because it meant they were no longer only surviving in nature, they were starting to control it. From that day forward, Homo erectus carried fire like a secret, like a living torch of progress, and as they walked into unknown lands, the glow of that flame marked the beginning of a future where humans would no longer belong to the night. And even though they could not imagine cities, machines, or oceans of light, this single moment, a storm, a spark, and the courage to step closer, became one of the most important turning points in the entire story of humanity.